Hi, this is Diane Lovetobake on YouTube, and what we're going to make are actually brownies. These particular brownies, well, they're a little different than the average brownie because you don't use sugar. You don't use granulated sugar. What you sweeten it is with raisins. Now, are these brownies going to replace sugar brownies? Probably not, but they come very, very close. In fact, when I've made these and had friends try them, I didn't even say anything, and they didn't know the difference other than they said, wow, these brownies are really good. Now, if you end up trying this recipe and you like it, I do have a cake recipe also sweetened with raisins. It's a little bit different than this brownie dessert, but do check it out. If you're looking for recipes where you're not using sugar or artificial sweeteners, they are really good ones. Like I said, I have a cake one sweetened with raisins and apple concentrate, and these are just sweetened with raisins. So I'm going to go through everything, you know, how to put it together. I'm sorry, I no longer put the recipe of the ingredients below the video. I'll explain in a little while why I don't do that. But I'm sorry about that. And what I like about this recipe is that you can just kind of put everything in, one thing after another. The only thing you wait to the very end is to put the baking soda in. So let's get started. First, let's start off with oil, and it's going to be your choice of oil. Now, you'll need 1/2 of a cup plus 3 tablespoons of your choice of oil. So you decide on that. 1/2 plus 3 tablespoons. Now, on the raisins, take a 1.5 cups of your favorite brand raisin that you like to use. These are dark raisins. And I put them in my processor with the cutting blade. And you'll want to just keep working with them till they become kind of all together. If you can kind of see how they're all kind of mashed together. Now they still have some of the integrity of the raisins, so don't be alarmed by that. It's not going to change the recipe. I think it actually enhances it. So they're chopped well, but like I said, you can still see many of the raisins that they still have, their shape to it. So fill your 1.5 cups. You can kind of pack them down a little bit if you want. And now I'm just going to put them in the oil. Now you can certainly use this recipe with your hand mixer, but I like to use my stand for the videos because I think it's a lot quicker. I'm going to warn you about the sound, and then I'm just going to combine the oil and the raisins just for a minute or so. By the time you work this recipe, don't worry that the raisins might seem, you think, oh, it's just a big glob and they're never going to mix. They will mix. They really will. The next thing that you're going to be putting in is 1/2 cup of water plus 1.5 teaspoons of water. So that was 1/2 cup of water plus 1.5 teaspoons. And then just heat it on low together. And you'll do that for 2 minutes, maybe 3. And you do that on probably medium low, depending on what mixer you're using, that kind of thing. The next thing you're going to put in is 3 eggs at room temperature, 1 at a time. Let's beat them in, and then also beat for about 2 minutes or so. And I'm going to use more of a medium-high speed to move it along for the video. That was 1. That's 2. And now 3. Okay, I raised my speed logically just to move it along, but your medium-high it'll do the job. Just make sure that everything is, by then your raisins are broken up and your mixture becomes kind of frothy and bubbly, that kind of thing. The next thing is all-purpose flour, and you're going to need 3/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour, and just start beating that in on low. Now I'm going to show you so far what it kind of looks like. Just sort of a liquidy paste mixture. The raisins are all broken up by this time. They're not in a big wad. You're going to be needing unsweetened baking cocoa, and you will need a 1/2 cup of that. And we'll put that in a little at a time. And again, mix it for a minute or two till you know it's all combined. And so far, it looks like that. And you will start to smell that chocolate. Oh, it's just delicious smelling. And when you're baking, your whole kitchen, oh, they really are something. And yes, I'm not doing anything wrong. We're going to put the salt in. Some people will write, I know, and say, why didn't you put it in with the flour? Well, it just works this way, and I've been doing it for years. So put the salt in, okay, and then just mix that in. Okay. Well, got a little run over here of some flour. Get that out of the way. All right, and this is the last thing that you want to put in. It's the baking soda, and it's 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda. And I really believe this is what really brings the brownie to be very light and very fluffy. And in fact, don't over mix it. If you're going to do it by hand, you know, actually turn it with your spoon or your spatula about 30 times, something like that. I actually do it on low, and I actually count the revolutions of the blade till I count to 30. You don't want to take whatever air that's going to be built up in this recipe, you don't want it to deflate it, okay? And you don't want to overbeat it. So I'm going to put that in, and then I'm just going to turn it on low, and like I said on this, I actually count to 30, or if not, if you're doing it by hand, again, 30 strokes of mixing. Slowly to 30, and then of course I just turn it on high the last few seconds or so, okay? All right, now I'm just going to take the excess off my paddle. I should have had my spatula here, but I forgot it. So we'll set that aside, and I will grab my spatula. Out. And this is when you can just make sure, clean the sides of the bowl, make sure that it did get mixed on the bottom well. Again, try not to, you know, over beat it. And this is what it will look like. Now, you will need to grease or oil. I would suggest something more than the oil spray. So get oil down on your pan, or I use solid shortening, or use your parchment paper if that's what you want. You will need a 9x9. This is a 9x9 by 2. Okay, I believe that's what it says. Yep, it does. 9x9 by 2. And just put all your mixture into your pan. I want to get that all out of there. You don't want to waste any of that. And just even it out as best as you can. Get it into the edges of your pan. Level it out. Okay. And now I'm going to use a knife here just to get the excess off. My spatula. Okay. And get the rest of this out of the bowl. I hate to waste product. I'm sure there's a lot of you folks out there that, well, you feel the same way. If you're going to spend the money and time in doing a recipe, you really don't want to waste any of the ingredients, especially because prices have gotten very high on ingredients. Now, if you also want to put walnuts in this, pistachios, cashews, macadamia, whatever kind of nut, feel free and use about a half a cup of your favorite chopped nuts. The person that will be eating these cannot eat nuts, so I'm leaving it out. I don't tap my pan or anything like that. I really want it kind of undisturbed. Now, what I would suggest to do is, though, I usually start my oven at 350 degrees, and I actually start to bake them for about 15 minutes. Then after 15 minutes, I actually turn the oven down to 325. I'm sorry, it probably sounds a little confusing, but it's well worth it. This recipe is a good one. And then finish out the baking at 325. Now, they might come up in 20 minutes, they might take 25, they could take 30. It really depends on your oven, because you know your ovens, they set up so differently. I actually find mine come up really between that 22, 23 minutes, that kind of thing. But I've had friends make it and they said that theirs took up to 30 minutes. So you be the judge, you know, have your toothpick or your cake tester to see if you believe that it's done by testing it. You know, I have actually baked this at 350 degrees right to the end, and it's come out fine, but you have to watch it because it can get a little bit too overdone on the edges and dry it out a little bit. So do try the 350 for that 15 minutes. And like I said, perhaps 10 minutes at 325. I think you'd really like the results on these brownies. Now, I'm going to just quickly rinse my hands. I want to show you the finished product. Okay. When you're working with raw eggs, you definitely don't want to touch food. Okay, now this is what they're going to look like once they're baked up in the pan. Beautiful dark chocolate the color. As you see, it's not over baked. It actually starts to pull away from the sides, and then I test the center of it, and if it comes out clean, I know that they're well baked. And now I have, besides showing you that in the pan, that was a 9x9. I have some that are cut up, and aren't they beautiful? These brownies will come up nice and tall for you, and I hope that you can kind of see as I'm pushing down on the brownie how delicate and as it comes together how soft these are. And then the crumb, you can see there, it's just falling away with my fingertips. It's just, they're so light and airy. These are not, you know, some people always say, how do you describe a brownie? Well, there's cake brownies, there's fudge brownies. This is right in between. I guess I'd call it more like a cake brownie, but it doesn't have that dryness to it. So I think it's between, you know, a cake and fudgy brownie. It really is exceptional. And what you can do, of course, put whatever favorite topping you want. If you want to use a sugar-free whipped topping on top, or you could melt sugar-free chocolate and drizzle that on the top. But I'm telling you, these brownies are fantastic just on their own, with or without nuts. So if you know, give this recipe a try. If you like it, well, I'd love to hear from you. So please leave a comment. And also I want to real quickly explain that I no longer put the ingredients down, because so many times I find my work that's been posted, pinned, claimed as theirs, and when you write to me and I see it, I'm so frustrated because I can't answer your question or your comment, and it's very frustrated, and I'm not alone on it. So I explain that because so many people write me and ask, so I thought maybe I'll mention it during the video. So give this recipe a try. You've got a sugarless brownie that really tastes fantastic with no sugar and sweetened with your favorite raisins. Now, if you try the recipe as I mentioned, leave a comment. But please, solely watch me on YouTube, because that's the only place that I put my videos. And if you're so inclined and you'd like to subscribe, boy, I'd really appreciate it. Or give me a like or ring the bell. I always want to thank you for watching Diane Lovetobake on YouTube. Stay safe and stay well, and I'll see you soon.